do yoga, do a range of classes at the Spectrum, channel my energy into, and it keeps me out of getting in trouble. But he asked me to write down, because I was reading all these different philosophy books, he asked me to write down all the quotes from philosophy books, my favourite quotes I could apply to my life. That was one of the sessions we did. We just discussed these quotes. So it was people like Epictetus. We are disturbed not by things that are outside of us that are happening, paraphrasing it now, but by the views that we take of them. Now that was extremely significant for me, because all day long we're letting things stress us out, aren't we? We're blaming this person for stressing us out, we're blaming that activity for stressing us out, we're blaming this. When really that's not what's stressing us out, it's our reaction to it. And we have power over our reaction to things. We can choose how to react. Some girl might say something nasty to you and you blame her for upsetting you. But you could be strong enough to just think, that's not going to matter to me. She can think that all day long and make herself mad. I'm just going to walk away and be my happy old self. But we have emotional reactions to things, we're only human. But if you can think of stuff like that, and over time, it trains you to be strong mentally, and that's what he did. He helped train me to be stronger mentally. It's a lifelong thing that I'm working on. But he was just giving you those two little examples, but there was a whole lot more to it. But he's put this framework in my brain now that I fall back on, when I'm getting into stressful situations. So I'm really appreciative that I met him. I've talked about the negative side of the staff, some of the guards that were murdering people and committing acts of violence. But there are some good people in there. There's some good guards in there. There's guards that say they don't like working for the sheriff. He's out doing all these publicity stunts. None of the money trickles down to the jail. It's all getting embezzled or given to his contractor friends and stuff like that. So there are good staff members as well. I'd like to make that clear. There was a creative writing teacher in there who really helped me as well. He was good. Yeah.
One more question, I think. Has anyone got one more question? No?
It was the biggest. Go on. We've got two.
I went to an art exhibition recently, and it was about guys that had been in prison in communist Russia.
Wow.
All different things. And
where was this at, the exhibition?
Sochi.
Okay.
And they were covered in tattoos, and it's all about the symbolism of tattoos.
Okay.
And I was wondering, is it the same in all prisons about your symbolisms?
I imagine it's not. I imagine the American standards are not worldwide. For example, if you've got a teardrop, it means you've murdered someone. Stuff like that. I imagine that the Russians have got their complete own system. I don't know if it's going to be based on acts of violence. I don't know.
Okay.
A lot of it is racial pride.
Because you said about the cobwebs, and some of them had cobwebs.
Yeah.
On them, meaning that.
And if the spiders climbing up, it means they're going to do another crime.
Yeah.
If it's going down, it means they want to get out.
Really? Yeah, so that's different from what it is in America then. Yeah.
Yeah.
Go on.
Okay, this is kind of a more silly kind of question.
I love silly questions.
It might not be
it's
silly.
about time we had a silly question.
It might have like a serious answer.
Yeah.
But I'm kind of addicted to Prison Break, and I was just wondering if
Wentworth Miller? Who would be? If I was gay.
have you ever has anyone tried to do it, or tried to do what Michael did?
Escape?
Yeah.
Through his system, I'll just escape in
No,
general.
just escape, or use the blueprints of the prison.
Oh, what about Teabag? Oh.
I don't like him.
Oh, he's awful, isn't he?
It's great, I can talk about it with someone.
You do see all those stereotypes in prison, like Teabag and people like that. The razor wire has a chemical on it, so the people who are escaping, when the razor cuts into their skin, the chemical prevents their blood from clotting, so they leave a trail of blood in the direction that they're escaping in.
That's clever.
The last one of the last ones to escape from Sheriff Arpaio's jail, he was rearrested in his pink, running down the street naked in his pink socks with all his body shredded up from the razor wire, and his clothes had been left on the razor wire apparently. So he wasn't very successful. There was one, well, there was a private prison came into Arizona. Well, actually, most of the prisons now I think are private in Arizona. A couple of years back, and I think what happened was a lover of a prisoner drove up in a truck, and I think it was like girlfriend, boyfriend, Bonnie and Clyde kind of situation. And she drove up in a truck. I don't know if she rammed the fence or whether he threw a blanket over the wire, because that's what they do. They throw blankets over the wire to try and get out. But he got out, and they went on a spree, and multiple people got murdered. Yeah, so it does happen from time to time.
Did you ever think about trying to escape? No.
When you're first arrested, you look out that window, and it just goes through your head. You can't help it. You're just like, how easy would it be now? And then you think, all right, I'm going to get 5 to 10 years added on, or I'm going to get shot. Because they'll shoot you if they see you. And I'm a practical person. You fantasize about it because it makes you happy to think you've got an option over the situation, even though you don't. It's the same with suicide. Most prisoners fantasize about committing suicide.
Is it?
A lot do it, but not. Most of them fantasize about doing it. A minority do it. It's a high rate, if you compare it to sort of public suicide. It's off the scale. But it gives you a sense that you've got control of the situation. You have an option that you have control over. You can kill yourself and end this right now. You could escape and try and end this, because you just feel so helpless. That's what it is. So you fantasize about things that give you a sense of control over the situation. Now, being forced to live with hundreds of people, I would have not chosen to have hung around with most of them outside of prison. It was the best education in psychology I could ever have had in my life. While I was in there, I was reading, certain names were coming up in different books I was reading. Freud, Jung, Erickson, Fromm, were coming up, Nietzsche, were coming up over and over again. And I went back and I read all of the original texts by all of those famous psychologists, and reading these stuff and reading all the case studies and talking to the prisoners and hearing their life stories and putting in the context of my studies of psychology, it really did teach me a lot about human nature. Even Bud, when he told me his life story and how horrific it was, how he was abused as a young child and then thrown away as a teenager and forced to live on the streets and robbing people so he could feed himself. What chance did he have in life over someone like me, who was university educated and threw it all away to do drugs and just party and be selfish and pleasure seeking? And so I got to understand where these people were coming from, and it made me feel for them. As much as I resented some of the situations Bud put me in, as I got to know him and learn about him, it made me understand. 2 Tonys, mafia mass murderer, he was brutally whipped as a child over and over again by his mum and dad. They tortured him in the basement, did all kinds of stuff to him. Yeah, so it's interesting in terms of nurture versus nature as well. If you guys are studying that, and is violence, to answer your main theme here, is violence, are these people born violent, or are they products of their upbringings, family abuse, and all this other kind of stuff? But that could be endlessly discussed, and I think we're getting near to the end. Are we?
Can I take a picture?
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah. Is time up?
It is.
Okay. Can someone stop the camera as well?
You just press that.
Yeah.